Imagine a galaxy where Anakin Skywalker was not denied, not held back, but granted the rank of Jedi Master. What if his anger had faded the moment the Council gave him the trust he longed for? What if Palpatine's grip on him began to slip, and the dark side's greatest weapon was never forged? Stay with me, because this single choice could change everything. The Jedi Order, Padme's fate, and the entire future of the galaxy. What if Anakin Skywalker had been granted the rank of Jedi Master during the events of Revenge of the Sith? The Jedi Council, after long debate, finally chose to honor his skill and loyalty rather than holding him back. Anakin felt a surge of pride and relief as he stood among the other masters, no longer sensing distrust from those who had once questioned him. In that moment, the seeds of resentment that Palpatine had planted in his heart began to weaken. He did not feel excluded or insulted. Instead, he felt respected, trusted, and valued. With this recognition, Anakin's bond to the Jedi Order grew stronger. The Council gave him access to knowledge and secrets only Masters could see, including the ancient wisdom of the Force. This knowledge allowed him to meditate more deeply, quieting his fears and calming the storm of visions that haunted him about Padme's fate. He sought guidance from Yoda, who taught him to face loss with courage rather than fear. Obi-Wan Kenobi also stood proudly by his side, no longer burdened by worry that Anakin would feel betrayed or neglected. Their friendship grew into an even stronger brotherhood. Palpatine, watching from the shadows, realized his careful plan was slipping away. He tried to tempt Anakin with promises of power and ways to save Padme. But now the Jedi Knight-turned-Master looked at him with suspicion. The Chancellor's manipulation no longer carried the same weight. When Palpatine finally revealed himself as Darth Sidious, Anakin did not hesitate. He reported the truth to the Council, and together with Mace Windu and Obi-Wan, he confronted the Dark Lord. The battle was fierce, but united. The Jedi prevailed, ending Palpatine's reign before it could begin. Order 66 never fully activated, as the Sith Lord who controlled the clones was gone. Many Jedi still fell, but the Order endured. Padme gave birth to her children in peace, and Anakin, though still tempted by fear and ambition, chose the light. His path as a Jedi Master was not without struggle, but with wisdom he found balance. The galaxy shifted onto a new course, one not ruled by an empire, but guided by the reborn strength of the Jedi Order. Anakin Skywalker, once destined to fall, had instead risen to become the leader the galaxy had long awaited. What if Anakin Skywalker had been granted the title of Jedi Master during the events of Revenge of the Sith? The Council, after many long debates, decided to put their doubts aside and recognize his strength, wisdom, and service in the Clone Wars. When Anakin stood in the chamber and heard Master Yoda confirm his promotion, he felt a sense of peace he had never known. The anger that had been building inside him slowly eased. For the first time, he felt that the Jedi truly trusted him, and the bitterness that Palpatine had planted in his heart began to weaken. As a Jedi Master, Anakin gained access to deeper knowledge of the Force. He studied ancient texts and meditated in the temple, finding wisdom that helped him see beyond his fears. The visions of Padme's death still haunted him, but he approached them differently. Instead of clinging to desperation, he sought guidance from Yoda and Obi-Wan. Yoda taught him to face the possibility of loss without letting fear consume him, while Obi-Wan reminded him that true strength came from compassion, not control. Their words and his new status gave him a calmer mind. Palpatine, however, grew worried. He had counted on Anakin's frustration with the Council to push him toward the dark side. Now, his whispers of unlimited power did not sound as tempting. When Palpatine revealed his identity as Darth Sidious, Anakin did not hesitate in his loyalty. He carried the truth to the Council, who moved quickly to stop the Sith Lord before his plan could unfold. Anakin stood beside Mace Windu, Yoda, and Obi-Wan in the final confrontation. Their combined power proved too strong for Sidious, and the dark shadow that threatened the galaxy was destroyed. Without Palpatine's control, Order 66 crumbled before it could fully take shape. Many Jedi were still hunted, but the Order survived and began to rebuild. Padme, relieved to see Anakin safe and loyal to the light, gave birth to Luke and Leia in a time of peace rather than fear. Anakin, though still challenged by his emotions, found balance in his role as a master, father, and protector of the Republic. The galaxy's fate changed forever. The Empire never rose, the Jedi endured, and Anakin Skywalker fulfilled his true destiny, not as Darth Vader, but as the master who brought balance and hope to the galaxy. What if Anakin Skywalker had been made a Jedi Master in Revenge of the Sith? The Jedi Council, after careful thought, chose not to hold him back. They saw his victories in the Clone Wars, his bravery in countless battles, and the wisdom he had begun to show. When the words were spoken that he would be granted the rank of Master, Anakin's heart swelled with pride, but also with a deep sense of belonging. The bitterness that had been growing inside him faded, and he no longer felt the need to prove himself to those who doubted him. As a master, Anakin was given access to the holocrons and knowledge once hidden from him. He studied late into the night, learning of balance, patience, and the dangers of fear. The visions of Padme's death still returned to him in his dreams, but instead of panic, he found strength in calm reflection. Yoda guided him through meditation, teaching him that love did not mean possession, and that true devotion came from letting go of fear. Obi-Wan, proud of his brother and friend, stood closer to him than ever before, and the bond they shared became stronger. Palpatine watched this change with unease. His greatest weapon had been Anakin's mistrust of the Council, but now that mistrust was gone. When the Chancellor spoke of powers to cheat death, Anakin no longer listened with desperation. Instead, he began to sense the darkness that lingered around Palpatine. The veil of manipulation began to lift. When Palpatine finally revealed himself as Darth Sidious, Anakin did not hesitate. He went straight to the Council, warning them of the danger. Together, Anakin, Mace Windu, Yoda, and Obi-Wan confronted the Dark Lord in his chambers. The battle shook the foundations of Coruscant, but united, the Jedi stood stronger than the Sith. With Anakin's blade striking alongside his master's, Sidious was finally defeated. Order 66 was never completed. Though clones turned in confusion at their orders, without Sidious to guide them, the plan crumbled. Many Jedi lived to see another day. Padme, safe from the shadow of the Empire, gave birth to Luke and Leia in hope, not despair. Anakin, now a master, faced the struggles of his heart, but chose always the path of light. The galaxy was spared from tyranny, and Anakin Skywalker fulfilled his destiny, not as Vader, but as the master who brought balance and preserved peace. What if Anakin Skywalker had been made a Jedi Master in Revenge of the Sith? The Council, instead of questioning his readiness, looked upon his bravery and countless sacrifices in the Clone Wars and decided to honor him with the title. When Anakin heard Master Yoda speak the words that granted him the rank, his eyes filled with pride. For the first time, he felt fully accepted by the Order. The frustration that had been building in his heart melted away, replaced with trust and loyalty. As a master, Anakin walked with new confidence through the halls of the temple. He was allowed into chambers that had once been closed to him, reading the ancient knowledge of the Force. In those texts, he discovered wisdom about fear, love, and destiny. His visions of Padme's suffering still troubled him, but now he had guidance. He sought out Yoda for counsel, and the Grand Master taught him that fear of loss was a chain that bound the soul to darkness. Obi-Wan Kenobi, relieved to see his brother growing wiser, shared in his triumph. Their friendship deepened, no longer strained by mistrust. Palpatine, who had counted on Anakin's anger, felt the ground slipping away. His words about saving Padme no longer held the same power. Anakin listened, but now with suspicion, sensing the shadow in the Chancellor's voice. The bond between Palpatine and Anakin weakened as the young master's faith in the Jedi grew stronger. When Palpatine revealed himself as Darth Sidious, Anakin acted with clarity. He rushed to the Jedi Council, warning them of the Sith Lord in their midst. Masters Mace Windu, Yoda, and Obi-Wan prepared for battle, and Anakin stood with them. The duel that followed was fierce, the clash of light and darkness shaking the city. But this time, Anakin did not hesitate. His blade joined with the others, and together they struck down Sidious before his empire could be born. Without Palpatine's control, Order 66 fell into confusion and broke apart. Many Jedi were saved, and the Order endured. Padme, safe and joyful, brought Luke and Leia into a galaxy filled with hope. Anakin, though still wrestling with the shadows in his heart, found peace in his role as a master, a father, and a protector. The galaxy changed forever, not with the rise of an empire, but with the rise of Anakin Skywalker as the master who brought balance, not destruction. What if Anakin Skywalker had been made a Jedi Master in Revenge of the Sith? The Council, after much debate, looked beyond their doubts and chose to reward his courage and dedication. When Master Mace Windu confirmed the decision, Anakin felt a calmness spread through him. For the first time, he did not feel restrained or mistrusted by those he served alongside. The shadows of resentment that Palpatine had planted within him began to fade. With his new rank, Anakin entered the restricted halls of the Jedi Temple, where only masters could study. He immersed himself in ancient teachings, learning of balance, discipline, and the dangers of clinging to fear. The dreams of Padme's death still haunted him, but this time he did not fall into panic. He turned to Yoda, who guided him to see that love without fear could bring strength, not weakness. Obi-Wan, watching Anakin's growth, felt proud. Their bond grew even stronger, no longer weighed down by mistrust or rivalry. Palpatine, however, sensed his plan unraveling. He had relied on Anakin's frustration to bend him to the dark side. Now, with the Council's acceptance, Anakin's loyalty was no longer in question. The promises of forbidden power did not carry the same temptation. The seeds of doubt that Sidious had carefully planted were being washed away by Anakin's trust in his fellow Jedi. When Palpatine finally revealed himself as Darth Sidious, Anakin did not hesitate in his choice. He went directly to the Council, warning them of the Sith Lord who had manipulated the Republic for years. Together, Yoda, Mace Windu, Obi-Wan, and Anakin faced Sidious in his dark chambers. The battle was fierce, filled with lightning, blades, and the clash of willpower, but Anakin stood strong with his masters. In the end, Sidious fell, his empire destroyed before it could rise. Without Palpatine's command, the clone troopers' betrayal faltered. Order 66 collapsed in confusion, and many Jedi survived to rebuild what was lost. Padme, no longer weighed down by fear, gave birth to Luke and Leia in peace. Anakin, though still challenged by his emotions, had the wisdom of a master to guide him. He chose to protect rather than control, to serve rather than dominate. The galaxy's fate was changed forever. Instead of darkness and tyranny, hope endured. Anakin Skywalker, once destined to fall, became the master who preserved light and brought balance to the Force. What if Anakin Skywalker had been made a Jedi Master in Revenge of the Sith? The Council, after much debate, looked beyond their doubts and chose to reward his courage and dedication. When Master Mace Windu confirmed the decision, Anakin felt a calmness spread through him. For the first time, he did not feel restrained or mistrusted by those he served alongside. The shadows of resentment that Palpatine had planted within him began to fade. With his new rank, Anakin entered the restricted halls of the Jedi Temple, where only masters could study. He immersed himself in ancient teachings, learning of balance, discipline, and the dangers of clinging to fear. The dreams of Padme's death still haunted him, but this time he did not fall into panic. He turned to Yoda, who guided him to see that love without fear could bring strength, not weakness. Obi-Wan, watching Anakin's growth, felt proud. Their bond grew even stronger, no longer weighed down by mistrust or rivalry. Palpatine, however, sensed his plan unraveling. He had relied on Anakin's frustration to bend him to the dark side. Now, with the Council's acceptance, Anakin's loyalty was no longer in question. The promises of forbidden power did not carry the same temptation. The seeds of doubt that Sidious had carefully planted were being washed away by Anakin's trust in his fellow Jedi. When Palpatine finally revealed himself as Darth Sidious, Anakin did not hesitate in his choice. He went directly to the Council, warning them of the Sith Lord who had manipulated the Republic for years. Together, Yoda, Mace Windu, Obi-Wan, and Anakin faced Sidious in his dark chambers. The battle was fierce, filled with lightning, blades, and the clash of willpower, but Anakin stood strong with his masters. In the end, Sidious fell, his empire destroyed before it could rise. Without Palpatine's command, the clone troopers' betrayal faltered. Order 66 collapsed in confusion, and many Jedi survived to rebuild what was lost. Padme, no longer weighed down by fear, gave birth to Luke and Leia in peace. Anakin, though still challenged by his emotions, had the wisdom of a master to guide him. He chose to protect rather than control, to serve rather than dominate. The galaxy's fate was changed forever. Instead of darkness and tyranny, hope endured. Anakin Skywalker, once destined to fall, became the master who preserved light and brought balance to the Force. What if Anakin Skywalker had been made a Jedi Master in Revenge of the Sith? The Jedi Council, instead of holding back their doubts, looked upon his victories in the Clone Wars and decided he had earned the honor. When Master Yoda announced their decision, Anakin felt a weight lift from his heart. For the first time, he felt truly trusted by the Order, and the anger that had once grown inside him began to fade. As a master, Anakin was granted access to the deepest teachings of the Force. He spent long hours within the temple, studying wisdom that spoke of patience, balance, and the dangers of fear. The visions of Padme's death still troubled him, but now he had guidance. Yoda counseled him to accept that love did not mean control, and Obi-Wan reminded him that compassion, not fear, was the Jedi's true strength. With their guidance, Anakin began to see his path more clearly. Palpatine, who had relied on Anakin's anger and frustration, realized his influence was slipping. His promises of power and ways to save Padme no longer carried the same temptation. Anakin's trust in the Jedi Order grew stronger, while his trust in Palpatine grew weaker. For the first time, Anakin sensed the darkness surrounding the Chancellor and began to question the man he once called a mentor. When Palpatine revealed his true identity as Darth Sidious, Anakin did not fall into confusion. He went directly to the Jedi Council and revealed the truth. Masters Mace Windu, Yoda, and Obi-Wan prepared to face the Sith, and Anakin stood with them. The duel that followed shook the very heart of Coruscant. Sidious unleashed all his fury, but this time, Anakin did not stand alone. Together, the Jedi struck down the Dark Lord before his empire could be born. Without Palpatine's control, Order 66 crumbled into disorder. The clones, leaderless, could not carry out the slaughter of the Jedi. Many survived, and the Order endured. Padme, free from fear, gave birth to Luke and Leia in peace. Anakin, though still wrestling with the shadows in his heart, found strength in his new role as a master, a father, and a protector of the galaxy. The galaxy's destiny was forever changed. The Empire never rose, and Anakin Skywalker fulfilled his true potential, becoming not Darth Vader, but the Jedi Master who preserved hope and brought balance to the Force. What if Anakin Skywalker had been made a Jedi Master in Revenge of the Sith? The Jedi Council, after long discussion, decided to put aside their doubts and recognize his extraordinary service in the Clone Wars. When Master Mace Windu declared their choice, Anakin felt a wave of pride and relief. For the first time, he no longer felt mistrusted or held back. The bitterness that had grown in his heart began to soften, and a sense of loyalty to the Order took root. With his new title, Anakin was given access to the holocrons and wisdom reserved only for Jedi Masters. He studied teachings that spoke of patience, humility, and the dangers of fear. The visions of Padmé's death still haunted his dreams, but instead of clinging to desperation, he sought guidance. Master Yoda taught him to release fear and accept that love must not become possession. Obi-Wan Kenobi, proud of his brother, stood beside him, and their friendship deepened into unshakable trust. Palpatine watched with unease as his influence began to wane. He had planned to use Anakin's resentment of the Council to lure him to the dark side, but that resentment was now gone. His promises of forbidden power did not sound as convincing, and Anakin began to sense the shadow surrounding the Chancellor. The seeds of doubt that once tied Anakin to Palpatine began to fall away. When Palpatine revealed his true identity as Darth Sidious, Anakin was no longer blind. He went immediately to the Council, revealing the Sith Lord's deception. Masters Mace Windu, Yoda, and Obi-Wan prepared to face the Dark Lord, and Anakin stood at their side. The duel that followed was fierce, filled with lightning, blades, and fury, but together the Jedi held their ground. Anakin fought with clarity and purpose, no longer torn by doubt. Sidious fell to their combined strength, ending his plan for an empire before it could begin. Without Palpatine's command, Order 66 never unfolded as planned. The clones, left without their master's voice, hesitated, and the Jedi Order survived. Padmé, freed from the weight of fear, gave birth to Luke and Leia in peace. Anakin, though still challenged by his emotions, embraced his role as a master, a father, and a guardian of balance. The galaxy was forever changed. Instead of tyranny, hope endured. Anakin Skywalker fulfilled his destiny, not as Darth Vader, but as the master who saved the Republic and preserved the light of the Jedi. What if Anakin Skywalker had been made a Jedi Master in Revenge of the Sith? The Jedi Council, after long and careful discussion, decided that his actions in the Clone Wars and his strength in the Force had earned him the honor. When Master Yoda confirmed their choice, Anakin stood in silence, feeling pride but also relief. For the first time, he felt trusted and respected. The anger that had been building inside him began to fade, replaced by calm loyalty to the order he had long served. With the rank of Master, Anakin was welcomed into the most sacred chambers of the temple. He read ancient Jedi wisdom and meditated on lessons of balance and patience. The dark visions of Padmé's death still haunted him, but he now had a clearer mind. He turned to Yoda for counsel, who reminded him that fear of loss only leads to darkness. Obi-Wan Kenobi, seeing his friend's growth, stood proudly by him. Their bond deepened, and the distance that had once grown between them disappeared. Palpatine, who had relied on Anakin's frustration, began to sense his plan slipping away. He spoke again of powers to save Padmé, but his words no longer carried the same weight. Anakin had begun to see through the Chancellor's shadow. Where once he had listened with desperation, he now felt caution and suspicion. When Palpatine finally revealed that he was Darth Sidious, Anakin did not hesitate. He reported everything to the Jedi Council, who moved swiftly to act. Masters Mace Windu, Yoda, and Obi-Wan prepared for battle, and Anakin joined them. In the Chancellor's office, a fierce duel erupted, the clash of light and dark shaking the city itself. But this time, Anakin fought with clarity. His blade moved with purpose, not confusion. Together with his masters, he struck down Sidious, ending the Sith Lord's reign before it could begin. Without Sidious, Order 66 fell into chaos. The clones, without their master's command, hesitated, and many Jedi were spared. The Order endured, scarred but alive. Padmé, freed from the fear of the Empire, gave birth to Luke and Leia, surrounded by hope, not despair. Anakin Skywalker, though still a man of passion, had found wisdom as a master. He chose the path of light, becoming a protector of the Republic and a father who brought balance to the Force. The galaxy's future was forever changed, built on peace rather than tyranny. What if Anakin Skywalker had been made a Jedi Master in Revenge of the Sith? The Jedi Council, after long arguments, finally set aside their doubts and agreed that his courage and victories in the Clone Wars had proven his worth. When Master Mace Windu spoke the words that granted him the rank, Anakin felt something he had longed for since he was a boy. He felt trusted. The resentment that had been growing in his heart began to fade, replaced with loyalty and pride. As a master, Anakin was allowed access to the deepest teachings of the Jedi. In the quiet halls of the temple, he studied the holocrons that spoke of patience, discipline, and the dangers of fear. Though visions of Padmé's death still haunted his nights, he found strength in new wisdom. Yoda guided him, reminding him that true love is not possession and that fear of loss leads only to pain. Obi-Wan Kenobi, watching his friend grow, stood proudly beside him, their bond stronger than it had ever been. Palpatine, who had built his plan upon Anakin's frustration, felt his grip weaken. The promises of secret powers and ways to save Padmé no longer carried the same fire. Anakin's trust in the Jedi grew stronger each day, while his trust in the Chancellor began to wither. He started to sense the darkness that surrounded Palpatine, shadows that had once gone unnoticed. When Palpatine finally revealed himself as Darth Sidious, Anakin did not hesitate in confusion. He went to the Jedi Council and told them the truth. Mace Windu, Yoda, Obi-Wan, and Anakin together marched to confront the Sith Lord. In the Chancellor's chambers, blades clashed with lightning as the duel shook the city. But this time, Anakin was not torn between fear and ambition. His loyalty was clear. United, the Jedi brought down Sidious, ending the threat before his empire could ever be born. Without Palpatine's command, the clone army faltered. Order 66 never spread across the galaxy. Many Jedi survived, and the Order endured. Padmé, safe from the shadow of the Empire, gave birth to Luke and Leia, surrounded by peace. Anakin, though still tested by passion, now had the wisdom of a master to guide him. He became not the servant of darkness, but the protector of light, the Jedi who fulfilled his destiny by preserving hope for the galaxy. What if Anakin Skywalker had been made a Jedi Master in Revenge of the Sith? The Jedi Council, instead of keeping him at a distance, finally recognized his skill, wisdom, and loyalty in the Clone Wars. When Master Yoda confirmed their decision, Anakin felt pride and relief flow through him. For the first time, he no longer sensed mistrust from those he had served alongside. The resentment in his heart began to fade, and he felt truly part of the Order. With the rank of Master, Anakin was allowed into the hidden archives of the Jedi Temple. He read ancient texts that spoke of balance and of the dangers of fear. The dark visions of Padmé's death still disturbed him, but now he approached them with calm instead of panic. He turned to Yoda for guidance, and Yoda reminded him that fear of loss could only lead to suffering. Obi-Wan Kenobi, proud of his friend, stood by him more closely than ever, their brotherhood renewed in trust. Palpatine, who had long counted on Anakin's anger, began to feel his plans slipping away. His words about secret powers and forbidden knowledge no longer had the same hold. Anakin, now wiser and calmer, began to see through the Chancellor's charm. He could feel the darkness surrounding the man he once admired, and the bond between them weakened. When Palpatine revealed himself as Darth Sidious, Anakin did not hesitate. He went to the council and revealed the truth. Masters Mace Windu, Yoda, Obi-Wan, and Anakin confronted Sidious together in a duel that shook the heart of Coruscant. Lightning clashed with blades, but this time Anakin was not blinded by fear. He fought with clarity, standing firmly with the Jedi. Together, they struck down the Sith Lord before his empire could ever rise. Without Sidious, the order to destroy the Jedi collapsed into confusion. The clones hesitated without their master's control, and many Jedi were saved. The Order survived, wounded but not destroyed. Padmé, freed from the weight of despair, gave birth to Luke and Leia in peace rather than fear. Anakin Skywalker, though still challenged by his emotions, now carried the wisdom of a master. He did not fall into darkness. Instead, he became a protector of the Republic, a father to his children, and the Jedi who preserved hope and balance for the galaxy.